Daniel Rocks, The Bastard Review. Many YouTubers that I have watched have said that this show was terrible. That this show is the worst by far. A lot of people that I've seen review this said that this is the worst ECW pay-per-view. Even Richmond, he doesn't even talk in his YouTube videos. He just types and shows split screens of the show and said it was bad. A lot of people said that this is the worst ECW pay-per-view. A lot of people skip this pay-per-view. So, I have watched it. I watched it. But I did my research before I watched it. Now, I'm not saying that all the other YouTubes have not done their research. I'm not saying that. That's their opinion, and their opinion stands. And I respect that. But for me, I did a lot of research on this whole show. That's right. This is the review that we all want to see. My take on ECW's Living Dangerously 2000. This event took place in Danbury, Connecticut, March 12th, 2000. But first, before I get into the review, special shout outs to High Spots, Amazon.com, also to our Videos, who I believe record old ECW videos. Make sure to check out their websites. You won't be disappointed. I promise you that. Anyway, let's get down to business. And I'm going to give you all the research that I've had before I looked into this pay-per-view. I've watched it a couple of times. The first time I watched it, I liked it. But now looking at it now, I just go back and say, the heck was I thinking? But I looked at it more and more times than none. Is it really the worst pay-per-view ever, guys? Is it really bad? Is it bad? Well, instead of bullcrapping around, let's get down to business. We start off the night with Father James Mitchell, aka known as the Sinister Minister, who does a very nice, beautiful promo on the 7 deadly sins and all the wrestlers who commit it. Then we get a beautiful crowd view of the Danbury, Connecticut crowd, and we get Joey Styles and Joe Gertner in the ring, and Joe Gertner cuts some good poetry. And then here comes Cyrus the Virus, who is, I believe, the head of the TNN network in the storyline, comes in and tries to bully Joel, and then just literally attacks Joel Gertner. Then the pay-per-view intro starts, and we get our first match of first segment, another segment between Steve Corino, Jack Victory, talking about the Sandman's wife and his kids. Then they drove the Sandman's wife, Lori Fullington, into the ring, and it looked like Steve Corino was going to unzip his pants to make Lori Fullington suck Corino's dick, basically. That's what it looked like. And then the Sandman comes and attacks Jack Victory and Steve Corino, only to get gored by Rhino. Then Lori jumps on Rhino's back. Rhino easily pulls her off, and then gores her right through the table. He gores the Sandman's wife through the table. Then a bunch of security comes out. The Sandman, with this evil, pissed off look on his face, asks security where's his kids so he can take his wife to the hospital. Then Steve Corino comes back into the ring and begs on to take on the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, in a Texas Bull Rope match. Now, that's our first match of the night. Now, here's the research that I've done. Now, I'm going to give you my take on how this match came about, because a lot of people said that there was no story to this. But I've looked at it, and it was on YouTube. I don't know if it's on YouTube anymore, but I'm going to give you the take on it. Now, after the ECW November to Remember pay-per-view 99, Steve Corino went to a Limp Bizkit concert and said that his music was terrible and some stupid stuff to promote ECW and to promote, I believe, Guilty as Charged, and just to promote ECW as a whole. Then you have New Jack, Axel Rotten, and Balls Mahoney attacking Steve Corino. Then Steve Corino says that hardcore music is not hardcore wrestling is bad, then hardcore music is bad. Then he just says that he blames all of it on Dusty Rhodes. Dusty Rhodes was in the Elks Arena, I believe, at the time, and I guess Steve Corino calls the American Dream Dusty Rhodes out, and allegedly um, Steve Corino disrespects the American Dream, and then it takes it too far, and then the Dream just bionic elbows both Steve Corino and Jack Victory. Yeah, and it goes from there, I guess. Um, Steve Corino wants to prove that he's the new American Dream now, that he's the new role model for old school wrestling. Now, if you saw my Guilty as Charged 2000 DVD review, it was another plot, and I believe that match and all that build up led to this Texas match. And first match, even though it was like more like a bloody ball. And for Texas Bull Rope matches goes, I don't really like where they go into the crowd with that bull. Dusty Rhodes was even bleeding from the eye. Um, Other than that, I mean, the payoff was really good, I guess. You had the referee taping a cowbell into Steve Corino's head, and Steve Corino just, no, Dusty Rhodes just hits Steve Corino with the steel chair and hits him with the bionic elbow, and 1, 2, 3, Dusty Rhodes win the match. A lot of people gave this a half a star or 1 star. It had a good story. This is the research that I've looked into it deeply before I watched this pay-per-view. There's a good story going on with it. It was pretty okay, even though that Steve Corino kept on fighting, even though his gimmick was like a hard, like a very comedic heel type. I'm gonna give this match and be cherishable. I'm gonna give it a 2 out of 5. Next, we get a tag team match: the Dangerous Alliance of C.W. Anderson and Beautiful Billy Wiles against Danny Dory and Roadkill. And I believe this was something to do with #1 contenders or whatever. This was just an average tag team match. It wasn't bad. It wasn't good. It was just average. I did like the swerve. Electra came out with Danny Dory and Roadkill and turned her back on the tag team to join C.W. Anderson and Billy Wilds, and the Dangerous Lion. It was an okay swerve, but it was just an average tag team match. Just gonna give this a 1.5 out of 5. Next, we get a segment with Simon Diamond in the ring. And I believe it was supposed to be Simon Diamond versus Kid Cash, but Mike Awesome comes out and gives Simon Diamond and Kid Cash 2 options: either stay in the ring and live. No, wait, no, not stay in the ring. Either leave the ring and live, or stay in it and die. Simon Diamond leaves, but Kid Cash fights Mike Awesome, and it's an impromptu matchup for the ECW World Heavyweight title. Poor Kid Cash, and what a stupid squash match. It was you kind of feel bad for Kid Cash, but if you're like power hungry, like if you're like a Brock Lesnar fan, like when a big dude does some big damage, big damage shit, then this is a squash match for you, because literally Mike Awesome wipes the floor with Kid Cash in this match. And I love the ending a little bit, but poor Kid Cash. We get Mike Awesome grabbing Kid Cash on his shoulders and just awesome bombs him and lands right on his feet to get the pin. Even though it was for the ECW title match, and I really don't buy Kid Cash as the number one contender, and I don't really buy him winning the title, but um, this was a 3-minute squash match, and poor Kid Cash, like I said, poor Kid Cash. And I'm gonna rate this a 1 out of, maybe just like a 1 out of 5, because it was just a squash match. Then Jazz comes down to tend to Kid Cash, because Kid Cash is literally knocked the fuck out at this point. Then the tag team combination of Jotto and Gato come out and attack Jazz, and then you have Simon Diamond come back in the ring laughing, and then here comes Nova and Chris Chetty, and then we get a tag team match between them. It's way better, a little bit better than the Dangerous Alliance and the Roadkill Danny Dory matchup, but it wasn't. It was good, but it was a little bit better, but it wasn't by far improved. Um, I think Jado and Gato made an ECW appearance on what 2 days before this pay per view. I think they lost to the Impact players. So it was all said and done. It was I guess an okay match. I guess I do love Danny Dory and I mean not Danny Dory, Nova and Chris Chetty as a tag team, and I do love their finishing move, the tidal wave. It's a very good maneuver, and it was enough to get the 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna give this a 2 out of 5. Then we get a promo with Joey Styles and of course the with Cyrus the Virus, and apparently it was supposed to be Rhino versus Sandman, but Sandman had to forfeit his match against Rhino because what happened earlier, Rhino goring his wife through a table. So next we get a television title tournament match between Little Guido and Super Crazy. Obviously, this is one of the matches of the night. One of matches of the night. Super Crazy and Little Guido will always give you a good, phenomenal match, and I like the ending. It was also pretty much to this was more like of a push pay-per-view for Super Crazy, because the fans were over with Super Crazy. It was way over with Super Crazy. And besides, they I bet you, because here's the thing, here's the injuries. Van Dam and people that's leaving. So here's the thing. You had Taz is gone. You had yeah, Taz was gone. The Dudleys were gone. Jerry Lynn was injured during this time. Rob Van Dam was even hurt. I mean, at this point, Paul Heyman was dealing with superstars that were just injured, just completely injured. Didn't know what to do with. Didn't know what to do. It's just basically how he was doing, how the WWE is doing now with their injuries, and it really shows here. But like I said, this was obviously one of the matches of the night. It was a good match. It was a good title match, even though they botched the ending a little bit, and Joey's commentary botched the ending. Other than that, Super Crazy picks up the win, and he will take on Rhino in the finals for the vacated ECW television title. Next, we get another squash match Balls Mahoney against Wing Canamera. For a 2-minute match, it was decent, I guess. This match will obviously this match is getting a 1 out of 5. And just to let you know, the super crazy little Guido match, just to point that out, it gets a 3 out of 5. Sorry for not judging it. Um, yeah, Balls and Win Kanamura gets a squashed, a big 1 out of 5. Because there was no rhyme or reason to have this match on the pay per view. Then after the match, the Baldies beat the living hell out of Balls Mahoney. And then here comes New Jack to come to Ball's rescue. He beats the hell out of Angel and DeVito, and then him and Grimes go out fighting into the crowd. And here's the big segment of all, the incident, the Danbury, Connecticut incident. Now, if you all remember this, New Jack and Vic Grimes were going to the scaffolding, and they went up there, and obviously one thing led to another. Vic Grimes lands on New Jack's head, his face, his head, and his chest. This caused New Jack to be injured so bad that he out of his right eye anymore. That's how heavy Grimes is. Because number one, they landed on tables, and New Jack's head landed on concrete, and you also had Vic Grimes, 400 pounds, Vic Grimes landing on New Jack's body and face. Even if you watch it slow motion, it's beyond fucked up. It's oh you. Mm. Thank God New Jack was not dead, but he was hurt. He had brain trauma and he can't see out of his right eye now. Oh my God, it was just oh God. Anyway, next we get a 3-way tag team elimination dance for the ECW tag team titles. The Impact players versus Masato Tanaka and Tommy Dreamer against the current ECW tag team champions, Raven and Mike Awesome. Now, the story here with this, you're going to have to excuse me because this story is way complicated. After Guilty as Charged 2000, after when the Impact players beat Tommy Dreamer and Raven, what happened at Cincinnati, Ohio, uh, Tommy Dreamer was forgiving Raven and they were going to one more shot at taking on the Impact players in the main event at an ECW television taping. But Francine turned her back on Tommy Dreamer and started managing Raven. So Raven and Francine leaves, and then here comes the Impact players. They beat the hell out of Tommy Dreamer until Masato Tanaka comes to Tommy Dreamer's rescue, and they win the tag team titles. I think Masato Tanaka hits the diamond dust on Just Incredible, and we get new tag team champions and Dreamer and Masato Tanaka. And I believe 2 weeks later, during another ECW television taping, Raven alliances himself with the World Heavyweight Champion, and they challenge Tommy Dreamer and Masato Tanaka as well. And they beat Tommy Dreamer and Masato Tanaka, and now they're the new tag team champions. Now, where does the Impact players go in this? Now, remember I said Jado and Gato took on the Impact players on like 2 days before the pay-per-view even started, I believe. It was also for a number one contenders match for the tag team titles. Of course, the Impact players win, and then they said they wanted a 3-way dance. So you had the Impact players revoking their rematch clause. You had Dreamer and Tanaka invoking their rematch clause against the current tag team champions of Mike Awesome and Raven. Now that you know the story, how does the match hells up? First, the Impact players come out, and then they say that they don't care about Dreamer or Tanaka. They just wanted Raven and Mike Awesome first. Asking you shall receive. First, the champions get the advantage. Then here comes Raven and Tanaka. Not Raven and Tanaka, Dreamer and Tanaka. And they start beating the mess out of the titles. Also, like I said in Guilty as Charged 2000, it would have been cool if Mike lost the belt to Spike. Oh, that's another injury. Spike Dudley wasn't even at the show either. So to make a long story short, you had Masato Tanaka and Mike Awesome in the ring, and Masato Tanaka hits Mike Awesome with the roaring elbow. 1, 2, 3. So we are guaranteed new tag team champions. So now it's Masato Tanaka and Dreamer against the Impact players. It was a good then you had the Impact players do this, I think, spike pile driver onto Tommy Dreamer, and then they win the belts. Other than that, what do I have to say about this three-way dance? The story was a little bit all over the place. The tag team titles belts were being jumped from week in and week out, which made no sense at all. But the match itself, it was a good match. It was a very entertaining three-way dance, but I really don't like the fact that your world heavyweight title gets pinned, and he's the first one to get pinned, and he's the one responsible for losing the tag team titles. That made no sense at all to me. It didn't make any sense at all. And you might as well say hasta la vista with Raven and Mike Awesome, because remember Mike Awesome did that started, that incident with Mike Awesome in ECW where he goes to WCW. We don't see Mike Awesome after this pay-per-view at all. And then the ECW becomes vacated, and I believe in Indianapolis, Indiana, um, Mike Awesome taps out to Taz, and then that's something for something on another day. But as for Raven, I believe he stuck around after Hardcore Heaven 2000, even though he didn't make an appearance there. But he makes, I think, his way out, because I believe he remember in 2000 he made his debut in the WWE at I think it was Unforgiven. I think around September. So I think he stayed around till August of ECW a little bit. So other than that, what do I say about the three-way dance? How am I going to rate it? How am I going to rate this match? I'm going to rate this match a 3. A 3. I'm going to give it a 3.2 out of 5. And then finally we come to the main event. Super Crazy versus Rhino for the ECW television title tournament, the finals. We first start off with, well, at the end of the match, of the tag team match, when the Impact players win the belts back, you have Cyrus leaving the broadcast position and saying that everything is right with ECW now, and now he said to make it complete is to have Rhino beat Super Crazy. And then Cyrus goes on with this serious promo saying that he doesn't care if the fans like it, he doesn't care if anybody likes it. Then we get Paul Heyman coming out there, like literally talking, saying that when they made a deal with TNN, that they realized they made a deal with an a-hole like Cyrus. And then here comes Joel Gertner challenging Cyrus to a fight. It was just more like a segment, and then Super Crazy comes out, and then we get the match. For maybe like an 8-minute match, it was a pretty entertaining 8-minute match. It looked like Super Crazy was gonna win, but then here comes Tajiri, who blinds Super Crazy with the green mist. Then you have Rhino, Super Crazy, Steve Corino, Jack Victory, all attacking Super Crazy, and then we get Rob Van Dam. Van Dam comes back with Bill Alfonso, broken leg and all, comes out with Bill Alfonso and Scotty Anton. You may remember Scotty Anton from WCW and Ravens flock, Scotty Riggs. So, with that being said, Scotty Anton takes down Tajiri, and then Rhino proceeds almost to gore Rob Van Dam, but misses and gets Flapjack onto a table, only for Super Crazy to moonsault onto Rhino and get the pin. Super Crazy wins the television title. Rhino gets up and gores Van Dam and then attacks Super Crazy. Then the network of Cyrus, Jack Victory, Steve Corino, and Tajiri, they all attack Bill Alfonso, Scotty Anton, Rob Van Dam, and Super Crazy. And then the Sandman returns and makes the save by caning the crap out of Rhino, and ECW gets the upper hand, and then they all drink beer, and Joey Styles basically gives a rundown of everything what happened, and we end the show with the Sandman drinking a beer with Scotty Anton, Bill Alfonso, Van Dam, and the new ECW television champion, Super Crazy. And that's how the pay-per-view ends. And also a little side note from another YouTuber, this show was supposed to be 3 hours long. But guess what? It wasn't. This whole pay-per-view was 2 hours and 15 minutes long. Yeah, that's Monday Night Raw quality. That's not even near as something for a pay-per-view, especially supposed to be a 3-hour pay-per-view. It's a 2-hour show. So, for the match itself, it got a lot going on, and there was a mouthful to talk about that match. This whole pay-per-view in general. Overall, the Super Crazy Rhino match, even though that this was mostly this pay-per-view was built off for, I'm gonna be cherishable and give it a 4 out of 5. And I liked the ending of the match. It was pretty good ending. So overall, ECW Living Dangerously. Is it bad like Daniel Rock said? Is it bad like every other YouTuber says? Is it bad like the Bastard Review says? For the most part, yes. It is a horrible pay-per-view, but there is some things that was holding. You had Spike W is hurt. Um, Rob Van Dam is hurt, but still made an appearance at the main event. You had Jerry Lynn, who was hurt. You had the Dudleys gone, and you had Taz gone. They were in the WWE. You had Paul Heyman had up the ass, and it showed on this page. It very, very showed. And plus, Sabu was gone. He went to WCW for a minute. This basically showed what ECW injuries was going through. And plus, you had that Danbury, that New Jack spot with Vic Grimes. That was a sick, sick, sick moment in this pay-per-view. You had Rhino goring the crap out of the Sandman's wife. This was Injury City, and then you had this whole convoluted with Mike Awesome thing too. My God, it was just this pay-per-view. Is it the worst pay-per-view? To be honest, Paul Heyman, it's not like the roster tried. I'm going to say this. The roster tried its hardest to give a good show. But when you have all your matches that doesn't even last the 10-minute mark, that's a problem. Now, ECW, like myself, I got it. It's only worth God. All I'm gonna say is I'm gonna rate this whole entire pay-per-view as a whole. This whole show. I'm gonna be cherishable. I was gonna give this a But even though all the storylines, it's just boiled down by this shouldn't be on here. I'm gonna go through list here. The Dusty Rhodes Steve Corino match should have not been the first match on the card. It really shouldn't have. This could have been happened later on between Rhino versus the Sandman type match ordeal. Then I think the match that should have opened up the show should have been the tag team with the Dangerous Alliance versus Roadkill and Danny Dory. That should have been number one. The Mike Awesome Kid Cash match was very unnecessary. It was just a squash match. The Nova Chris Chetty, Jado and Gato match was okay, but it wasn't great. The Super Crazy Little Guido was the match of the night. The Triple Threat Tag Team match was a very good match, even though it had a convoluted story. And then you had Rhino and Super Crazy for the television title. That was also not convoluted, but it was just so much going. It felt like I was watching the ECW show than the pay per view, and that's all I got to say about it. This is one. It's not a. I don't know. Like everyone says, this is terrible. This is very. I wouldn't say it's the worst ECW show pay per view. I wouldn't go by that. It's just a bad. This is a bad. It's not. It's not very bad. It's just a bad show. And plus, Paul Heyman had to deal with so much injuries and and contracts with superstars, trying to keep the superstars in. Other than that, that's all I got to say. And the rating's gonna get to it. So overall, if you want to watch this pay per view for yourself, you can. The only matches I would probably recommend is the television title tournament and the tag team title match, and that's basically it. Everything else is just wow. Overall, this pay per view is not even average. This is a 2 out of 5 pay per view. It is what I know what Paul Heyman was trying to do, but it couldn't work at this point, and it really shows the injuries and the contract situations. It all shows here in this pay per view, and that's why I'm giving it a 2 out of 5. Wow, this was a mouthful. I finally review ECW Living Dangerously 2000. So what's next for ECW? Should I review Heatwave? Not Heatwave. Should I review ECW Hardcore Heaven 2000? Or should I review another ECW good pay-per-view, a good pay-per-view that a lot of people seen my Heatwave video and gave me an email saying that have I not watched Barely Legal? I have Barely Legal in my possession, and I will watch it because some people believe that Heatwave 98 was good, but it couldn't touch Barely Legal. But I gave Heatwave 98 a 10 out of 10. Who knows? Matter of fact, yes, that will be the next paper view I'll review. ECW's Barely Legal 97. I will review ECW's first pay per view. That's the next video. So until then, guys, God bless you all. Please remember to like and subscribe. And please also, as a shout out, rfvideo.com and www.highspots.com for all your wrestling DVDs and all that. I am Malcolm from the MCMA show. I will see you guys the next time for Barely Legal. Until the meantime, you guys have a wonderful day, a blessed day, and God bless you, and peace.